Yo, Tarke here, and I've literally just come in directly from the hospital arena, so we're gonna go over my new build and all that cool stuff. If I mumble, seem disorientated, or whatever, it's because I've literally just come in from the hospital, hence I've still got hoodie and scarf and all that good stuff. I had to have an infusion, just basic Crohn stuff, nothing to worry about. So the main sort of build feedback that people were into. How cool is my scarf? Anyway, the main sort of build that people wanted me to kind of play, there was a lot of talk about Caustic Arrow. There was a lot of talk about Nulls Inclination. No one seemed that interested into the Elemental build. I had a sort of think about everything, looking at my current budget and what I want from a character. I think I'm going to do the Caustic Arrow build, just because it's going to feel the most different to anything I've played thus far. If this character dies, we'll then go from this into most likely Nulls Inclination right afterwards, or we'll ride this out. It just sort of depends where we're at. Now, for the Caustic Arrow, I had two trees I could choose between. I had the Champion version, and I had the Occultist version. With the Occultist version, there's some umming and ahhing over going Tri-Curse or Dual Curse. Very easy to do Tri-Curse, since we have the Stibnite Flask to get vulnerability, all that good. Again, sort of looking at what I have and haven't done this league. I haven't played a CI build in hardcore yet. For that 2 weeks that I did spend playing softcore, I was playing CI for all of that. And I think I'm going to do Champion Queen of the Forest, just because it's a little bit more interesting, funny enough. Occultist Caustic Arrow is like the bee's knees. Everyone knows that. Not many people have really done Champion Caustic Arrow. I know I've done it in the past, and most of the time when people do life-based Caustic Arrow, they just kind of do Scion stuff. So this is the tree that I'm going with. Very budget, very zoom quality of life with all the insane movement speed. Right out of the bat, one thing that I want to say. Oh yeah, there's two different versions, so I'll talk about them a bit. Caustic Arrow is it's one of those builds which can clear content very effectively. It can do every single map mod. It has no issues with anything. No regen is the hardest map mod, but you just run one mana pot for that and you're fine. Now, the only downside about Caustic Arrow is that single target damage isn't the best. So I imagine that this build will basically be able to face roll maps up until about sort of tier 15, tier 14, maybe some tier 14 bosses. That's where you're going to start to hit kind of a barrier with like, okay, the single target damage is lacking a little bit. But I think we should be able to push up to that point pretty happily with a pretty small budget. Now, there are two different trees that I'm playing with. This is the tree that I prefer, but I'll just talk between the two. Basically, it's about getting this top section, or getting this section here. Dirty Techniques versus Atrophy. One thing which is kind of nice about Atrophy, it's just a very small thing, is it gives that a little bit of cast speed, which makes our Wither totem slightly better, and a tiny bit of Chaos Res, but it's pretty negligible. It also gives 20 more int. We do need int for Wither totem, but even with this version, we still have a base 84 int, which is kind of good enough, and we can easily get the rest through gear. Now, the reason why I think I prefer this bottom tree is it has a smoother leveling in the fact that it picks up life here, picks up life here. So this section on the left is kind of what we get at endgame. This is like at level 80, level 90, you just pick up this section. Otherwise, you just kind of come down, boom, travel up, right? Now, one of the things that I've always disliked about playing life-based shadow builds is the way that they root. They don't get a lot of their life until very late. So it's one of those things of you don't get access to much, and this kind of has a similar problem where your natural rooting while leveling with this tree is come down here, pick up this, so you get a nice big like chunk of some proj damage, and you get a nice chunk of life early on and some regen. Then you get like nothing until rangers start. Then you get a little bit of life and some utility. Then you get some life. Then you get acro, then you get pierce, then you just kind of get like a mixture of damage and some life. And then you're kind of in this awkward thing of, okay, do we now come this way to get more damage, life, and some damage? Or do we come this way to round out our life? Do you get what I'm saying? So in most cases, you'd probably pick up this stuff, and then you'd be getting this at the end. In which case, this just seems like a smoother leveling path. It's one less point. you get 70% damage here versus just under 70, I believe. 10, 22, 34, 48, plus 25. So yeah, you get slightly less. No, it's like that's like 73% damage versus 70% damage. But you also get skill effect duration here. Skill effect duration makes Vaal skills better. It makes Wither Totem better. It makes just buffs and stuff better. So I think I'm going to rock with this tree version. Now, Tarke, why do you get Marauder start? Why not just finish in this life section? You already have stupid amounts of life regen. 6.8% life regen. Do you really need the additional 1.8% from here? Maybe, maybe not. What I'm planning on doing is, you can see I pick up all the frenzy charges in this variant. I'm planning to use the Blood Dance unique boots, which give you 20% movement speed, up to a 30% chance to get a frenzy charge on kill. You get 0.5% regen per frenzy charge, and you also get 6% damage against low health enemies per frenzy charge. So basically it gives us a little bit of extra deeps on low life enemies, which is good. Makes bosses slightly less tedious, and it will give us frenzy charge generation, meaning we don't need to run blood rage, and it gives us stupid amounts of regen with 6.8%, and we'll be getting 3.5% from the boots because we'll have 7 frenzies. Will be over 10% life regen, so we're going to have copious amounts of life regen with no G-gen effects built in. We have already a pretty good life buffer. We have 3 jewels. We don't need to use any unique jewels. So we're well above 200% life. We're going to be using a Queen of the Forest. If you didn't want to use the Queen of the Forest, you could use a Belly or a Combs to push it even higher, but we should have at least 6.5k HP with a Queen of the Forest. We'll have nice movement speed everywhere. We'll have stupid amounts of regen. Having this much regen means I'll be able to do my Forbidden Taste thing that I like to do. Forbidden Taste is the unique quartz flask. I always feel bad about life builds because you kind of want to run 2 life pots, but it feels really bad. With this, what you can do is you can run 1 Forbidden Taste and then 1 like seething or bubbling, and you have a life utility hybrid flask which you can easily out regen even with like no chaos res. Picking up chaos res on 1 or 2 pieces is easy. I'll be very tempted to run a Devoto's Devotion in this kind of a build, so that's already a bunch of flat chaos res there. Because of the way that Caustic Arrow works, it only scales off chaos damage, degen damage, and projectile damage. On gear, we have very flexible gear, so we're not like chasing stuff. One of the things which I find quite limiting about a lot of the bow builds I've been playing this league is my perfect ring is like crit damage, weapon elemental damage, flat lightning damage, flat chaos damage, life, attack speed, and then somehow get resists. Whereas in this kind of a build, your perfect jewelry just has % chaos damage from it, and then as much life and resist as possible. Super easy to like cap out resist. Same thing with belts. With belts, you're not freaking out about, oh, I need to hit this really high wed roll. I mean, you can be greedy with flask rolls and stuff, just get loads of resist, get loads of life. It means getting a few bits of chaos res here and there is very easy. So running a Forbidden Taste will just be absolute face roll. High HP, move really quick, 10% life regen. Again, this is a build which can't leech, which is why I really value having stupid amounts of regen. The only bad thing about having this much regen is it makes a build which can run any map mod. You can still run no regen maps, like fine. It feels bad when you have so much regen and then you run a no regen map. If I think that this bit is overkill, I can just simply drop it and just fill in life here. One other option, and this is one thing that I do kind of like about taking this routing, is it means that when you do start pushing the high levels, we're talking like 90 plus, you have a lot of options. So if you decide that you want more damage because, you know, you've hit this wall, this like tier 14, tier 15 wall on bosses, and you just feel like you need more damage, then you can just fill in chaos damage here. If you feel like, actually, you know what, for the content I'm doing, I'm fine, or I already have enough damage and I'm not hitting this wall because my gear is good enough, then you can fill in life here. You still have access to it through 3-point jewel, 3-point jewel. And yeah, there's kind of just nice little things going on there. So I'm actually really looking forward to playing this character. Seems pretty solid. The tree I'm pretty much happy with. The only things that I would maybe consider changing is trying to get ballistic mastery just for a bit of quality of life. Not really needed. and there's the potential of maybe coming up here to atrophy. But if you drop this whole section, and then you come up this way, do this, you only have 174% life, which if you don't run a Queen of the Forest, you can make that work. You know, you still have 3 points left, you can pick up a 3-point jewel, and then, you know, with 4 life jewels, you're still doing decent. You're well over that 200% HP mark. You know, if you're running this with a Belly of the Beast, then this would be alright. But I think that considering Caustic Arrow's main weakness is single target, and, you know, if you want to, like, farm Guardians, you're not going to pick Caustic Arrow, right? You'd pick something different. I think that I'll be able to get away with not chasing this much damage. If I feel, however, with this routing that the damage is kind of lackluster, then I'll just invest into getting 3 7% life jewels and coming up this way instead. So yeah, that's basically that. I'm pretty shattered, and I have got a raid tonight in WoW Arena. So what will probably happen is I'll make the character do a little bit of casual leveling today, then I'll go into some WoW stuff in the evening, and then the major leveling will kind of start tomorrow. So expect like the first sort of update to happen sort of sometime tomorrow. And yeah, one other thing briefly, just to cover links off the top of my head. I'm going to be running Vulnerability as my main curse, Grace is my main aura, obviously, because we're playing on doing Queen of the Forest. We have loads and loads of evasion scaling, also the Ascendancy stuff, and get Fortify. People were saying, why don't you get Conqueror, why don't you get Worthy Foe? The problem being is Caustic Arrow isn't a build where you spam attack. It's you shoot once into a pack, the degen kills everything. You shoot once into a pack, run forward. Once into a pack, run forward. So having a 25% chance to taunt on hit isn't that great, because we're in most cases just going to be hitting a pack once. So if it doesn't proc, then this doesn't proc. Same thing with Worthy Foe. So this apparently is more damage because of the wording, because it's enemies take. If you can clarify this, it makes sense from what people have said. But yeah, 20% more damage is great, but it's only enemies you taunt. Again, Caustic Arrow just doesn't have very good natural synergy with this. This is just more reliable. It gives you damage. It gives you movement speed. It gives you evasion. Increased aura effect gives you more evasion. Some attack speed, bit of quality of life evasion, and again, just damage. So, yeah, I think this routing is better. It would be nice to get even more mitigation, but this should be good enough. Back to the link, sorry. We'll be running Caustic Arrow, and then probably weapon swap if we feel like we need to have a super Caustic Arrow setup, but we'll probably be fine with just one linked up bow. I'll use a +2. There's the prophecy on the silver branch is the +2, silver burrow I think it is. I'll use that for leveling, and then I'll try and pick up a cheap +3 bow. You can tend to get quite cheap +3 bows late into the league. It's another reason why I kind of like Caustic Arrow, because what often happens is at the start of the league, people playing Caustic Arrow craft the bows themselves, and it costs a couple of exalts to get all the crafts going, and they just sort of take the first bow they can. Then this late into the league, they've either gotten bored of that character and they've flipped the gear on, or they've been upgrading their items, so it's like, well, now I've got a better +3 bow. So we'll probably pick up someone's old bow for, you know, probably a decent amount, a few exalts in hardcore. But you need to remember an exalt in hardcore was only like 30C, if that. So we should be able to get a pretty GG endgame bow for about 100 chaos in Breach hardcore. And if there's none for sale, I can always just craft one myself using people's master mods. So the links will be something like Caustic Arrow, Void Manipulation. This isn't in order, this is just something like Void Manipulation, slower projectiles, increased AoE, concentrated effect, Empower, if I can get my hands on a good Empower. Think I haven't missed anything out. Then in my chests, I'll use Frenzy, GMP, Curse on Hit, Vulnerability. If I get a 5-link, throw faster attacks on there. The reason why I'm still using a Frenzy Curse on Hit, even though I'll be using the Blood Dance Boots for Frenzy generation, we don't need to curse every pack, we just need to curse bosses and rares. It's just a nice way of making sure that our Frenzy charges are ticking up naturally. Poison Arrow is a degen, so you shoot the Poison Arrow, put one Frenzy into the pack, move on, and it's just a way to make sure that we're always staying at high charges and we can generate charges on the top end. If you want to do that on very small links, so you don't mind about maintaining Frenzy charges for some reason, you could just use Split Arrow, but that should be fine. with a totem, so with a spell totem, faster casting, increased duration. Then we'll have floating Grace and Arctic Armor. I want to run Grace and Arctic Armor. If the mana cost is really iffy, then we could take off the Arctic Armor and just run Grace Clarity. But I think I should be okay with my current mana sustain to do Grace plus Arctic Armor from previous builds I've done. We might just have a threshold of, okay, we can't quite sustain with the Arctic Armor on. So those will just float somewhere in the build. I'll try and use a max level Flame Golem somewhere, just because Flame Golem does give increased damage. It's another way of scaling up this, and it's generally pretty hard to scale up Caustic Arrow. Blink Arrow in there somewhere. Vaal Lightning Trap in there somewhere. Castle Damage taken a Mortal Call. And yes. Sorry if this video was a bit hap-dash, but as I said, I wanted to get something out of there. I've just come back from the hospital, so I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye.